They felt they'd be in the World Series since the first day of spring training.
We were just going to dominate, and no doubt about it.
The inevitable has finally become a reality.
When you come out cold into the lion's den, stuff happens.
Unbelievable! You're looking at one for the ages here.
I go to restaurants today, and people whisper, "That's a guy that killed Donnie Moore."
Now Gary Carter wants him to look at the ball.
You know, those guys can believe what they want to believe.
He turns around and asks Doug Harvey to check the ball.
And I've been hearing this for 25 years.
From last rites to the World Series.
I'd love to hear some stuff you hadn't heard before.
So Roger goes 7 innings and goes out winning 3-2.
I don't know why he would say something like that. I've never asked to come out of the game.
Here comes Mitchell to score the tying run.
I still get goosebumps when I watch it. The nightmares are that you're going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through your legs.
Behind the bag, it gets through Buckner.
These two are linked forever as the complete opposite. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, they sit right here.
Welcome to a postseason to remember, 1986, from MLB Network Studio 42 with Tom Verducci. I'm Bob Costas. Obviously, the idea for this program comes off of our 20 Greatest Games series. There were games from each of the LCSs in '86 and, of course, from the World Series that made that list. We'd have to say that we need to revise the list. Looking back to the just completed postseason, Game 6 of the 2011 World Series would figure in there somewhere. This whole just completed postseason was terrific. If you want one to rival it, maybe even exceed it, all things considered, go back 25 years.
I think the drama was incredible because there were 5 games out of 20 in this postseason when a team was 1 or 2 outs away from winning the game and lost the game. And Bob, 25 years later, the drama is still as exciting now as it was back then.
So here we go with a postseason to remember, 1986.
What a great series. It's gone. Unbelievable. You're looking at one for the ages here. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
Tom, after the 2 LCSs, both of them nearly unbelievable in October of 1986, baseball fans might have found themselves asking, what can they possibly do for an encore? Then it turns out the World Series had just as much drama and intrigue.
And tremendous anticipation for this matchup. New York and Boston, really the 2 best teams in baseball, and both teams loaded with superstar players.
Here's a quick review of how they made it to the Fall Classic, beginning with the Red Sox.
And game 1 about to come your way now on a clear, crisp New England night. Ripped to left field into the gap, and that's in there for extra bases. And Fenway will become very quiet as the Angels lead 4-0. There are 2 down, and Evans is the batter. And it's Mike Witt going all the way as the Angels take the first game of the ALCS 8-1. And the Dewey chant going up, and they're in full voice with the bases loaded. Grounded to third, knocked down by the Sensei, and he doesn't make the tag. 4-2 Boston. As Gedman grounds it down to second, and Grich goes to Schofield 1, back to first, and they still can't get the double play, and a second run will score, and the Red Sox lead 6-2. And so this Fenway throng collectively rising to its feet. Now on the verge of getting even. Knocked down by Boggs, goes to second, and we are even. The Angels on top 2-1 with 2 out in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Our radio announcer was saying that this is the kind of game where one swing of the bat may determine the outcome. And I was just thinking to myself that wouldn't it be nice if that would be me?
To deep right center field, and that one is out of here. The Angels, before this uproarious throng, leading 4-1.
You mess around down and in, he can take you deep.
And it's hit to left field, and it's hit to Downing, and the Angels have the lead in the series. So here we go to the bottom of the ninth inning, and it's 3-2. Bases loaded, 2 out, and it's up to Downing. And he throws it inside and hits him to tie the game. It didn't look very promising going to the bottom of the ninth inning, but all of a sudden, a 3-run rally. The game is tied, and we go to the bottom of the 11th inning. Drifted to left field down the line for a base hit. Narron around third, coming in, and the Angels go up 3 games to 1. Ninth inning, 5-4, Donnie Moore to face Dave Henderson.
That fastball, that's where I'm catching up now.
Right.
As in,
Right.
And then Boone knows that. I feel like I should hit that ball hard, and I'm thinking that was my pitch to hit right there. I'm in big trouble. I missed my pitch.
Right.
To left field and deep, and Downing goes back, and it's gone. Unbelievable. You're looking at one for the ages here. Anaheim Stadium was a strike away from turning into fantasy land. And now the Red Sox lead 6-5. 1 out. Boston ahead 6-5 in the bottom of the ninth inning. Hit sharply by Barrett for a base hit. Evans can throw. Jones is coming home. The throw home is there. No, he's safe. And we go to the 11th. And it's drilled to the gap in left center field, deep enough to score a run. Pettis makes the catch. Baylor tags. Red Sox lead 7-6. 2 out, bases empty, bottom of the 11th inning. 7-6 Boston. Popped up. Here comes Stapleton. Next plane to Boston. And why not? It should be Henderson who wins it. 1 game for the pennant tomorrow. 4-0 Boston with 2 on and 2 out in the bottom of the 4th inning. Runners go. Pitch is a curve into deep left field, and gone.
So he transforms a 4-0 ball game into a 7-0 ball game.
The Red Sox are trying to go from last rights to the World Series, and they do.
The Houston Astros take the field, and Mike Scott goes toward the pitching mound, and there's been a lot made about Mike Scott scuffing the ball. Now Gary Carter wants him to look at the ball. I mean, that thing just exploded.
I had never seen a pitcher that can throw a fastball and make it break in 2 ways whenever he wanted. There has to be something doctored on the ball to do that.
Struck him out. The Houston Astros have defeated the New York Mets. Broken bat, Ray Knight at third. This could do it. And the New York Mets have evened the series at 1-1. Bottom of the 9th inning. Leonard Dykstra will come to the plate. Houston leads it 5-4. Hit to right. Bass going back. Going back. It's gone. And you watch the New York Mets examine that thing. They're going to look at it and look at it and look at it.
You know, those guys can believe what they want to believe. And I've been hearing this for 25 years. And,
So you're saying there was no scuffing?
well, I'm saying that I've thrown balls that were scuffed, but I haven't scuffed every ball that I've thrown.
This should do it. And the Houston Astros win it 3-1. Up the middle, base hit. Hatcher's throw. Play, and the Mets win the ball game in 12, 2-1. After 8 innings of play at the Astrodome, Game 6 must win for the Astros, and they lead it 3-0. It's a 3-1 ball game. It's a 3-2 ball game. Here comes Hernandez from third. He scores. The game is tied 4-3. Mets lead at the bottom of the 14th inning, a game that Houston has to win. High in the air toward the corner, curving, it is home run!
You're saying to yourself, is this really happening? It's like you're dreaming it, but you're there because people are hitting you and you feel it, but it was unreal.
The top of the 16th inning, and Ray Knight at the plate. Hits a base hit to right field. That's going to bring Strawberry home. Bass's throw offline. And the Mets have gone to the lead 5-4. 3 big runs score. Going to the bottom of the 16th, 7-4 Mets. And it's 7-5. It is 7-6. Now it is Kevin Bass's turn.
And I just came to the mound and I said, if you throw another fastball, we're going to fight. And he looked at me and smiled, and Carter came in, and I said, this guy can't hit a curveball.
Struck him out! And the New York Mets have won the 1986 National League pennant.
You know, Bob, watching this celebration, what I see here is not just joy, but relief. Relief because now they don't have to see Mike Scott in a Game 7. Now, with that behind them, they not only are going to the World Series, now they have to win the World Series after a season in which they dominated with 108 wins.
And of course, Tom, they were favored as they got set to meet the Red Sox in the World Series. When we come back, we'll begin our look at the Fall Classic.
This is what I've been waiting for, but now, you know, you'll love to hear some stuff you hadn't heard before.
We're joined now by 3 key participants in the 1986 World Series. From the Red Sox, left-hander Bruce Hurst and closer Calvin Schiraldi. And from the Mets, outfielder Mookie Wilson. Each LCS ended on Wednesday of the week of the World Series, and the series began on Saturday night. Your Game 6 actually overlapped their Game 7 because it seemed to never end.
Yeah.
So you each have 2 full days in between before the World Series begins. But you must still be drained from what happened in the 16-inning game in Houston.
There's no question. We had nothing left. I mean, after that 16-inning game, we needed some time off. I don't think that we could have played the next day. You know, so we were very fortunate that we did play the long game and had those couple of days off. We needed it very badly.
Now, your big up was Game 5. You won Game 6 and 7 at home, but it wasn't quite as exhilarating or as exhausting as what they went through to clinch their series against Houston. But nonetheless, I imagine you had to say to yourselves, all right, this is the World Series. And what we just went through was great, but this is the biggest test of all.
Yeah, it was the biggest test of all. For me, you know, that was my first playoff experience. In the World Series, it was just a whole new energy. When we walked on the field in Shea Stadium, the amount of media, the amount of attention, everything just went up. You know, it was white hot. Plus the Boston, New York thing, you know, it was just kind of picked up, and that kind of, for me personally, that gave me a lot of energy. It felt good.
And Mookie, I thought a lot of the attention was on the fact that your Mets team won 108 games, and to sort of validate that season, that great season you had to close the deal in the World Series. Did the team feel that way?
We did feel like we had to win it, but I think that we took a little bit for granted too. I think after the Houston series that we felt that we just no way that we could be beaten, you know, and I think we were probably a victim of our own success in that turn, but we ran into a little problems.
Now,
for a time.
You had opposed Mike Witt in Game 5, and that was on Sunday. So you had plenty of rest when Game 1 of the World Series rolled around on Saturday night at Shea.
Right. Clemens pitched Game 7 for us, so he was done, and Oil Can pitched Game 6. So, and I was on my full rest. So, McNamara gave me the ball, and you know I was ready for it. I was feeling good. I was pitching well, reasonably well, and you know I felt like it was time to go.
And Calvin, for you, 24, just 9 saves, became the closer late in the season. But you have the Game 7 and end of game, get the last out of the ALCS. But now you're going up against the Mets, your former club. Is there anything there in the back of your mind about playing the New York Mets?
I looked at it as I had a lot of friends over there. I went through the minors with a lot of the guys over there, and I thought I knew them pretty well, knew more of their tendencies of what they could do, what they wouldn't hit, what they could hit. So I thought I might have a little bit of an advantage. That didn't really work out that well for me, though.
So it's Bruce Hurst against Ron Darling in the World Series opener on a Saturday night at Shea Stadium. It's a scoreless game as we go to the top of the 7th. Jim Rice leads off with a walk. He takes second on a wild pitch. Dwight Evans is retired on a ground ball back to the mound, and up comes Rich Gedman with Vin Scully at the mic.
Here is Rich Gedman. Popped up and struck out against his old high school foe and hits a ground ball right through Tuffle. Here comes Rice around third to throw by Strawberry. He's in there. Down to second goes Gedman.
Wally Backman would have been in there had a right-hander started. Tuffle starts against the lefty Hurst and right through the wickets.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those situations. Tuffle's been very consistent for us all year. And I think that's just one of the situations where it was a fairly easy ball to play, and I think just let the ball play him, and that's what usually happens when you sit back on baseballs.
And I remember after the game, Tim Tuffle was at his locker, wave upon wave, answering the same question every time. But obviously, when you get to a World Series, these things are magnified.
And that one run was magnified because of the way both Darling and Bruce Hurst were pitching. And that 1-0 lead stands up to the bottom of the 9th. And wouldn't you know it, here comes Calvin out of the bullpen. He enters the game replacing Bruce. His first batter is Darryl Strawberry, bottom of the 9th.
My thought here is I really just don't want to walk him. I don't want to give up the home run to tie it. And ended up walking him.
Well, better the walk
than the home run. And the next play, State makes a tremendous play on this ball.
Now, it's significant that with a 1-run lead in the bottom of the 9th, Dave Stapleton is at first base for defense in place of Bill Buckner. McNamara made that move. Ray Knight's going to come up, and he's going to try to bunt the potential tying run to second base.
This is just a fantastic play. I'm sitting there screaming, no, no. I see him turning. Get out of the way, dummy. I really didn't think he was going to go to second with that.
And he barely gets Strawberry. There's Knight thinking he laid down an excellent bunt, but the sacrifice doesn't work. Barrett covered.
That's a pretty gutsy decision, isn't it, Bruce?
It is a gutsy decision, and but Stape has been a middle infielder. He wasn't always a first baseman. He played second. He came up playing a little shortstop. He played third. So, he's fairly athletic. It's not, it's not his natural position, but he's a middle infielder. He can move.
So now with the right-hander Schiraldi on the mound, it's Backman to the plate, off the bench, and a little fly ball to Rice and left. And the Red Sox are 1 out away from taking a 1-0 lead in the series.
And Danny Heap will bat for Rafael Santana. Got him, and the Red Sox have beaten the Mets in Game 1, 1-0.
I mean, that had to do wonders for your confidence. Not that it would have been lacking, but a 1-0 game on the road, World Series in New York.
I felt pretty good after that game. A lot of things happened in Game 5 of the ALCS, and then this just kind of made me feel good about myself again.
So now, Game 2, and you forget, it's a quarter century ago, the anticipation leading up to this. Dwight Gooden against Roger Clemens. Gooden had been the Cy Young Award winner in 1985, put together just a miracle of a season. And Clemens is the Cy Young Award winner and the MVP a year later in '86. He goes 24-4. Everybody thinks this is going to be, some sort of Koufax versus Marichal or Gibson type hookup. Doesn't quite turn out that way.
No, this is the game you thought was going to be 1-0, and it wasn't. I'm curious, in these days before interleague play, Roger Clemens, what do the Mets do to prepare to face the Rocket, who's the MVP and Cy Young winner that year?
Well, honestly, we didn't do anything special. In all honesty, I think we were more concerned about facing Bruce than we were Roger, simply because it's the left-handed pitcher versus right-handed pitcher. And I think most teams that had a great deal of success against us were left-hand pitchers.
So after all the buildup, as it turned out, neither Gooden nor Clemens really had his A game. It's 3-2 Red Sox heading into the 4th inning. And then Boston really starts to get to Gooden. Once again, Vin Scully with the call.
A towering smash into left center. Dykstra to the track, at the wall. Gone. Hendu hits it out. And the Red Sox lead the Mets 4-2. And look at that fan holding onto his head. Well, here's Dwight Evans, who walked and struck out 0 for 1. Rice held on by Hernandez. 5th inning. Red Sox 4, Mets 2. And there's a drive into deep left field. Heap just watches this one, and it's going to go on the pavilion top, on the roof. And Dwight Gooden is not good enough tonight. It is 6-2 Boston in the 5th inning. And oh, did Dewey whack that one.
So Evans' home run on the 5th made it 6-2 Red Sox in Game 2. Eventually they win it 9-3. Clemens doesn't stay around long enough to get a decision, but the Red Sox win it and take a 2-0 lead in the series. Mookie, you're down 0-2 heading for Fenway.
Not a good feeling. You know, I think that we're all shocked, you know, to come, you know, to get beat, you know, at Shea Stadium. And I think that we kind of, you know, being at home, you know, you figure you can win 1 ball game, you know, but to lose 2 with our 2 best pitchers.
Coming up, as the teams head for Fenway, why Davey Johnson gave the Mets the day off when the series hit Boston.
You know, I probably couldn't get away with it today, but I canceled the workout in Boston and gave him the day off. You know, I don't know how many thousands that would cost me if I did that today, but I felt we needed it. You know, I felt like we needed to get just a day off was going to be better than answering questions on how come we lost 2 in our park.
Mookie, we all thought that you would have to have a workout, go in, take some balls off the wall, familiarize yourself with Fenway Park. Now, the Mets did play a charity game there in the second half of the season, but this is the World Series.
Yeah.
Were you surprised Davey said, guys, don't show up, take the day off?
Very. It turned out being the right decision. Sometimes you have to save players from themselves. And I think, as David said, if we come to the ballpark, it's all kind of questions. How can you guys lose, you know, 2 ball games? You're here now, you're down 2-0. You won 100-something ball games. You did, you know, invincible Mets, and we got to go through all that, and we start figuring out we weren't. I think reality set in that if we wanted it, we was going to have to play for it. And I mean, as where the National East was used to us, the Red Sox didn't care, you know, and they showed it.
Of course, you had one guy who was very familiar with Fenway Park, and he was the key guy, your starter for Game 3, the former Red Sox left-hander Bob Ojeda. And before he ever took the mound, Lenny Dykstra got him off to a terrific start and changed the momentum of the series a little bit, leading off Game 3 against Oil Can Boyd, and again, the call of Vin Scully.
And here we go. High drive down the right field line, hooking in the corner. If it's fair, it's gone. It's gone. Lenny Dykstra takes Oil Can deep, and the Mets lead 1-0.
Of all the hits, that may have been the biggest hit ever because we needed something to kind of, you know, get us back on track, get our confidence going. Because for the first time in the whole season, I think we felt a little bit, you know, unsure of ourselves.
Wow. Now that's saying something about a team known for its confidence.
Yeah, we were confidence is putting a kind. You know, we were very arrogant. We were really, really sure about ourselves, but we needed that because I think losing 2 games at home, our best pitcher getting pounded the way it happened, losing a very close ball game, down 2-0. We needed something to say, hey, you know, you guys, you still can do this. You know, it's no question that was probably the biggest hit of the series. That hit alone right there got us back on track.
Well, Bob Ojeda had it going on, and the Mets win Game 3, 7-1, so they're back in the series, and that brings us to Game 4. Now, Ron Darling's going to come back. He's going to pitch 1, 4, and as it turns out, 7. John McNamara does an interesting thing. He figures that you may need an extra day's rest, and he maybe has a game to play with. He's up 2-1. He's going to go to his number 4 starter, Al Nipper, in Game 4.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk back and forth, I remember, about whether I was going to get the ball or not. But I think Mac made the decision pretty early. I knew that I was going to get Game 5, and so it was no surprise for me. And, Nip was the kind of guy that, was pretty crafty, had a lot of pitches. And, if he's on, he can be pretty tough. He can keep you in the game for a while.
Well, Nipper did not pitch badly, but now it's the top of the 7th, and the Mets behind Darling are leading 3-0. At this point, Nipper is out of the game, and Steve Crawford has come in. He faces Lenny Dykstra with 2 outs and Mookie on second after reaching with a single and then stealing second.
High fly ball into pretty deep right field. Back goes Evans on the track at the wall. Leaps, he can't get it. Home run for Dykstra. And what a picture Evans paints in right field.
Mookie, what was your view of that play?
Yeah, I thought he was going to catch it. To be honest with you, I thought he was going to catch it. But there again, that's a sign of things turning.
Calvin, you probably had a real good look at this, huh?
Yeah, staring right at it. He made the jump, and it's like he was stuck. For some reason, he said he right there, his knee wouldn't let him go any higher, and all he needed was another inch.
And Dwight Evans made so many great plays with his glove and with his arm through the years in right field, and that one just off the webbing of the glove. It's 5-0. The Mets go on to win the game 6-2. It's tied 2-2. And now you've got the ball, and you've got to right your team and reassert control of the series in Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2-2. We knew the Mets weren't just going to roll over. And, I just wanted to go out exactly kind of what we did in Game 5 in the ALCS. I knew I was going up against a great pitcher, and I knew that I couldn't probably give up very much. And I just wanted to see if I could go pitch for pitch with him, keep us in the game. And, we'd been swinging the bat pretty well and see what happens. That was my thinking. And I was rested. I felt good.
So it's Bruce Hurst against Dwight Gooden in Game 5, and as it turns out, Bruce goes the distance. He strikes out 10. He allows 2 runs. The Red Sox win 4-2. They're back in front in the series, 3-2, with Bob Ojeda set to start Game 6 against Roger Clemens.
Oh, your confidence has to be soaring here. 1 win away from the World Series championship, and you're giving the ball to Mr. Cy Young himself, Roger Clemens. I mean, you don't want to assume anything, Bruce, but in terms of being where you want to be, this is it.
Well, that's the guy you want. I mean, if everything's lined up and you want to have one guy on your team that's going to pitch to win the World Series, it'd be Roger.
And Calvin, as a closer, now with 1 win away, do you begin to start thinking about being in position to get the last out of the World Series?
I wasn't really thinking about it because with Roger on the mound, we were hoping that he was going to just take us the whole way. I mean, he did that. I mean, I've been with him since college, and he did it in college. And my thought is he's going to do it again tonight.
Yeah, you had been his Texas teammate.
Yeah. And, we kind of took care of business at Texas and just figured that he was going to do the same thing here.
Took a pay cut to play pro ball, but that's...
Hey, now, easy on that.
Facts are facts.
Bruce busting out his banquet material. Coming up next, Game 6 of the '86 World Series.
Welcome to Game 6. The last time the Boston Red Sox won a World Series, the Doughboys were dug in the trenches of France, Mademoiselle Armentières, and finally, Johnny came marching home.
The dreams are that you're going to have a great series and win. And the nightmares are that you're going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through your legs. So, those things happen, and just I think a lot of it is just fate.
That's almost too eerie, isn't it? Less than 3 weeks before this night, October 6th, Game 6 in '86 was October 25th.
For me, honestly, that's a little hard to listen to. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy to a degree.
Yeah.
And Buck, he's fallen on the sword for our team, unfortunately. And we all had a hand in our loss. But I always say, without him, we don't get there.
Okay, let's pick up Game 6 in the top of the 7th. Both Bob Ojeda and Roger Clemens have pitched well, but now Roger McDowell is on in relief for the Mets. The game is tied at 2, and McDowell allows a leadoff walk to Marty Barrett. After Bill Buckner grounds out, Barrett is at second, and Jim Rice is at the plate.
1 ball, 1 strike. Roller to third. Knight charging. High throw off Hernandez's glove, and over to third goes Barrett. A routine play gets away by Ray Knight.
Here's Dewey Evans. The count goes full.
Here's a key play by John McNamara, too, to start the runner on first base.
Which wasn't something we did very often either.
They wind up getting the out at first, but Rice is safe at second. No hit and run, double play, out of the inning. Instead, 3-2 Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look that play, just shortstop Elster at the time, throwing the first base, getting the guy at first was big.
Red Sox playing little ball. That's something we didn't do very well. Didn't do very often, but we had it in us.
All right, so now Clemens has a 1-run lead. He's thrown 117 pitches through 6 innings, but keep in mind, this is a different era. Roger Clemens had lots of games where he threw 130, 140, even sometimes more than 150 pitches, and he hadn't thrown that many in Game 4 because he came out after 4 1/3. Bottom of the 7th, Ray Knight, looking to atone for the error that led to the Red Sox run in the top half, hits it hard to right field, but he's retired, 1 out. Dwight Evans with the catch.
Clem was throwing great that night. I mean, he was rested and he was throwing hard, I thought. He was kind of vintage Roger.
Here you are, Mookie.
Yeah, Rogers, we didn't want Roger to get this deep in the game. You know, that's the one thing we did not want. You know, we figured we could get to him like we did last time and get into the bullpen a little sooner, but that didn't work out as well.
Well, one thing you did well, though, you fouled off a ton of pitches, the Mets did in this game. Roger ends this inning with 134 pitches. 44 of those were foul balls by the Mets.
So he threw 17 pitches in this bottom of the 7th, which is going to end here with Kevin Elster, who has come off the bench and is playing shortstop at this point, flying out to Dave Henderson in center. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Clemens, who comes walking off here without any apparent signs of duress, but something's brewing.
Something's brewing, but, you know, you talk about the 17 pitches in that inning, but all of them out of the windup, it wasn't a stressful inning for him at all. He seems like he's in command of the game at this point.
What did you guys think?
I thought he was. I mean, I thought it was like Cal was saying. I just thought it was, you know, here we go. We're going to jump on Rogers' back and sail it on in. And you know, to me, sitting on the bench, it looked like I said, vintage Roger. He had all systems go and was on. It was just kind of marching to the finish line.
Now, Calvin, if this was any time within the last, you know, decade or so, you would have been up, even though it's the ace Roger Clemens. He's thrown 7 innings. You wouldn't necessarily be in the game, but you'd be up and getting ready by this point. What were you doing that night after 7 innings?
Watching the game. Enjoying watching Roger pitch. And I mean, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I might get in, but there's been no, especially with that inning right there, they're not going to pull him. And I don't blame them. So it's just like I'm just enjoying the game.
Well, here is John McNamara's account of what Clemens said as he came off the mound at Shea Stadium and entered the dugout after the 7th inning.
He came off the mound in the bottom of the inning, and we were waiting there at the steps to congratulate him, you know, getting out of the 7th. And he came down the steps and he said, "That's all I can pitch," quote unquote. And my answer to him was, "You got to be shitting me." And he said, "No." And he showed us his finger, middle finger of the right hand, where he had the start of a paper tear on his middle finger. And we'll correct this right here and now. He had no blister whatsoever. And how that got started, I don't know. But it got spread rapidly, and it continued over the next 2 years. About the blister took him out of the ballgame. And that is not the case, as sure as I'm sitting here.
All right, we are into a little bit of a he said situation here, because last week I spoke with Clemens, and here's what he had to say about what happened after the 7th inning. Roger Clemens.
I think I was getting ready to hit, and if I'm not mistaken, McNamara pinched hit Mike Greenwell for me. So again, I don't know why he would say something like that if it's to deflect attention from the game. My recollection is I was at the bat rack putting my gloves on, or getting my bat, my helmet or whatever, and getting ready to go hit. I think I only given up 4 hits. So I've pitched 100 pitch games. I pitched 150 pitch games. I think I threw a 164 pitch game at some point in my career. So I don't know where that came from.
So no question in your mind, you expressed clearly that even though, yeah, you had a little problem with your finger, you could continue and you wanted to continue and you expected to continue.
Yeah, I mean, again, little problem with my finger. If they're saying they didn't see anything with my finger, I mean, there was blood on the baseballs and crazy things like that, but it wasn't going to affect me to continue.
All right, we still have more reaction from John McNamara, as well as some thoughts from Bill Fisher, the pitching coach, and Charlie Moss, the Red Sox trainer. But guys, as you hear the first couple of comments from your manager and your pitching ace, what do you think?
I think I really don't want to get in the middle of this, if you want to know the truth. All I know is what I knew of Roger Clemens. And Roger, he was the guy that went 9. And it was to win the World Series. I know in his mind, if I had to put words in his mouth at that time, I'd probably think he's thinking, I got all winter to rest, and he's going to throw it all out there. That's the Roger I knew. That was a teammate that I, grew to love and really respect and lifted me to be a better pitcher.
Now, Roger was scheduled to hit third in that 8th inning. Henderson led off with a hit, and Spike Owen bunted him to second base. So at that point, if McNamara calls for the bunt, you know he's intending to hit for Clemens. Now, whether that was a strategic move to try to get an insurance run or whether he just felt that in his mind Clemens had told him he was done, either way, he was yanking Clemens.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you're going to bunt with your 8th hitter if you think your pitcher is staying in the game. So clearly a decision was made prior to Spike Owen getting up to the plate. I'm just curious whether you heard anything in the course of the game, Bruce, about any finger issues or any sort of physical ailment that may have compromised Roger at all during the game.
Nothing that I can remember. I mean, I was kind of like Cal. I mean, I was sitting at the end of the dugout and I had my soft shoes on and I'm just watching Clem do his thing.
So, Calvin, when did they tell you to get up? Are you throwing now as your team is batting in the top of the 8th?
I'm pretty sure I'm throwing right now. I don't remember exactly when I started, but I'm pretty sure I'm throwing right now. I'm thinking that they made a decision when Dave got on that Roger was out and they were going to pinch hit.
Now, Roger has said through the years, and he reiterated to me in that interview last week, that what he said was, I've got a problem here with my finger, and it's keeping me from throwing the slider. But I haven't thrown that many sliders anyway, and I can continue and more or less rely on my fastball. But here is McNamara's response to Roger claiming that he could still stay in the game and pitch.
Well, that is not accurate. That is not the truth. And I don't lie. And when they're indelibly imprinted in my mind what he said.
It's pretty powerful stuff, guys. I mean, I'm not sure that John McNamara has gone on camera in 25 years and certainly been as definitive as he was in these statements. You know John McNamara, you played for him. What do you make of the statements?
Honest, this is painful for me. And we're trying to win a World Series, and we lost a tough series. You can't lose a World Series and come as close to winning as we did. And to have to still fight these battles and this stuff 25 years later it gnaws at me. It's somewhere along the line we got to put it to rest, and I don't know, but it bothers me personally. So.
Well, I doubt we're going to put it to rest tonight, but let's finish with what we've got here. Charlie Moss, the trainer, told us that he took a look and he saw something on Clemens' finger, but as he put it, it was nothing of great consequence. Now, Bill Fisher, the pitching coach, who by all accounts was closer to Clemens than McNamara, the manager, was, said he leaned in on the conversation, but then walked away while McNamara and Clemens were still talking. He continued on by telling us, Mac turned to me and he said, "Get Schiraldi ready." What we're left with here is, as I said, he said with two key figures in one of the great games in history.
And I'm going to lighten it up here a little bit. I can't see Clemens giving up at a bat, personally. I mean,
no, exactly. No way.
Those things are precious when you're an American League pitcher. So.
I'm going to go another step, because Clemens also told me that when the scheduled Game 7 on Sunday night was rained out and pushed to Monday, that he told Mac that he could work out of the bullpen on Monday night.
He had his spikes on. He was in the bullpen.
He was in the bullpen.
Yeah.
And for the game. So, I mean, and I played with Roger at Texas and then again with the Red Sox, and I have never known him to come out of a game willingly.
Why do you think McNamara would not have called upon him after you were out of the game 3-3 in Game 7? If Clemens could give you an inning or two, why not go to him?
I'll be honest, that conversation was had after Game 7. Clem came in and said I was ready to go. And I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to that relationship. I don't know what happened at the end of the dugout, but obviously something happened, and it severed a relationship. So
here's Keith Hernandez with his thoughts from the other side on what Roger Clemens might have done that night.
With that bullpen they had, which was their obvious Achilles heel, Clemens had to suck it up and go 9. At least try to go 9 and let us knock him out if he has to leave the game.
Well, Keith is pretty blunt. What do you think, Mookie?
Again, pitch count, we weren't counting pitches. We knew we weren't touching Clemens. He was pretty much doing what he wanted, against us. It was surprising when we saw he was out of the ball game. It really, really did shock us because we thought, this guy's just going to mow us down for the next 3 innings, or next 2 innings. So we don't know. All this is new. We didn't get all this about someone's fingers hurt and didn't want to come out of the game. All this is afterthought to us. We didn't hear all about this, but we were concerned about just trying to, score runs. And yes, we wanted to get Clemens out of the game early. We really did, but we didn't think he was coming out.
When we come back, the Mets come to bat against Calvin Schiraldi.
So Roger goes 7 innings and goes out winning 3-2.
Well, perhaps unexpectedly, he is out as we go to the bottom of the 8th, and Calvin Schiraldi comes out of the bullpen, and the first man he faces is Lee Mazzilli, pinch hitting for Jesse Orosco.
My thoughts here again, not to walk anybody, get ahead and see what happens. I mean, we knew he could hit a fastball, but that's what I throw, and so I'm just trying to get ahead.
Big pinch hit from Mazzilli leading off the bottom of the 8th. Now, a lot of interesting things are happening here. Davey Johnson could have double switched and didn't, and Mookie, that would have taken you out of the game.
Yes.
He didn't do it. And he lost Jesse Orosco. Lost Jesse Orosco with a single pitch.
Yeah.
Orosco got Buckner out to end the inning, but now he's out of the game. Calvin, you make the play at second, but it doesn't work on the bunt.
That was an attempted play. I just didn't gather myself. I threw from down low. I tell my pitchers to always throw up top, and I throw it sidearm and make a terrible throw.
So Dykstra with the attempted sacrifice, and it turns out better than that. The Mets have first and second and nobody out. The discussion here is what?
I have no clue. I have no idea.
Punch out the side, I think.
I'm thinking you got the third base line, but...
Well, you have to think of bunt plays again in order here with a guy like Backman, first and second.
Yeah, he was very, very, very good at bunting. He could bunt, either direction. He really bailed us out many a days with this bunting.
So after a Keith Hernandez intentional walk, Gary Carter is at the plate. Backman with the successful sacrifice. Base hit could give the Mets the lead. Sac fly could tie it again. The count went to 3-0, and he's hacking on 3-0 here. And that gets the run.
I'm actually thankful for that in a sense. I mean, yeah, you give up 1, but you got your second out, and you're still in the game. The lead run is not scored yet. You've given up a 1-run lead, but there could have been a lot more. Could have gotten a lot worse.
I agree. I'll take the out for the run right there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So now here's Strawberry. Game tied at 3 in the bottom of the 8th.
I don't even remember what happens.
That refresh your memory?
That refreshes my memory. Thank you. I think that at this point we're still. I mean, it's a 3-3 game. We haven't gained anything. We lost our lead, but we're still feeling good about ourselves, and we're not down. So there's always a chance.
The score is tied 3-3, but some things have happened or not happened that will have a significant effect coming up shortly. As we talked about when you were here with Bill Buckner, when we focused on Game 6 in the 20 Greatest Games series, when Jesse Orozco came in and retired Bill Buckner through one pitch, you had made the last out in the preceding inning.
Yeah.
And so he could have double switched and kept his best reliever in the game, and you would have been out. And the whole thing, I mean, they could have pinch hit for Buckner, right? Baylor could have hit for Buckner. You could have been double switched out, and the two primary actors in one of baseball's great dramas would have been removed. As it happened, after Strawberry flied out there, he was double switched out of the game.
Yeah.
And that did not endear him to Davy Johnson.
No, I'm not sure if you were aware of that at the time, Mookie.
Not at the time.
After the game, he made his thoughts well known.
Well, Straw has been known for speaking his mind. Now, we didn't know. I wasn't aware that Straw was going to be out of the game. You know, I'm looking at, okay, somebody's missing, and Straw's gone. And it did come across everyone's mind, well, why didn't he take me out? You know, and that still is a puzzle.
Well, this much we know for sure. Each team failed to score in the ninth. We go to extra innings. It's Rick Aguilera now out of the Met bullpen. It's his second inning of work. It's the top half of the 10th. Dave Henderson, who seems to be in the middle of everything, is at the plate. And again, Vin Scully with the call on NBC.
And a drive to left. Going back on it is Mookie Wilson, and this one is gone. Henderson has done it again.
At this point in the game right here, I'm out of the game. They've told me I'm out of the game because I'm due up to hit, and then Dave does that, and I'm already sitting down, relaxed, and now I've got to find a bat and find a helmet to put on to go up and look stupid swing. That's
so
great.
your spot is coming up when in this inning? After Henderson?
After
Two batters
Spike next, and then me.
So mentally, you've basically shut systems down.
Yes.
You're out of the game.
I'm out of the game.
But now
I'm back.
One-run lead.
Now he hits the home run. Now I got to scramble to find a helmet and to find a bat.
And as it happens, Boggs delivers a double. You don't do anything at the plate. No surprise. But Boggs delivers a double, and Barrett, who simply refuses to be retired in October, gets a base hit, and you've got an insurance run. You're up 5-3.
I'm going to go back to what Calvin said. I thought that was very interesting. It doesn't sound, and correct me if I'm wrong, Calvin, that it was not presented to you conditionally, that if this happens, you're in, or if this happens,
it's just
you're
that
not
they said
in.
you're done. I mean, we're not expecting Dave to go up and hit the home run the first pitch. Hopefully he gets on, Spike bunts him over, or whatever. So, yeah, things changed when he hits the home run, and now I've got to try to refocus, and obviously didn't do a very good job of it.
So that did have an effect, huh?
I'm guessing that had an effect. I mean, I get the first two guys out, and then I make a couple bad pitches.
All right, let's take a look. The Red Sox are 3 outs away from their first World Series victory since 1918. Calvin, in his third inning of work, faces Wally Backman leading off in the New York 10th.
The thing about these two balls right here is it's not like they're not hit very hard. They're pretty well scalded.
Well, he pokes this one to left.
Yeah.
And Rice comes over to take it. By the way, looking at you on the mound, less hair on top, whole lot more on the chin. Now as opposed to then. Now here's Keith.
Yeah.
This ball's hit. Just happens to be a big ballpark.
And Henderson tracks it down, 2 outs. Now, Hernandez noted to us that he picked up on the fact that after being removed from the game, Clemens shaved. He had some growth through his 7 innings of work, and now here he is on the bench clean shaven. When I mentioned that to Roger, Roger said, you know, he's right. That's true. I did shave in anticipation of the celebration. But wasn't Keith up to some stuff of his own? Because Keith had cheerfully admitted, in fact, I interviewed him on NBC immediately after the game. He's pouring champagne on everybody's head. And he admitted that after he made that second out on the long fly to center field, he went back into the Met clubhouse, thought the game was over, and downed 2 Budweisers. Yeah. And then when the Mets began to rally, superstition, he couldn't leave his seat.
Yeah.
Now, suppose the game had remained tied. he would have gone out for the 11th with a buzz going.
He probably will. He's very superstitious. Keith is,
He might not have left that seat.
So Roger says to me, hey, granted, I shaved, but who's Keith to be talking?
It happened. It was in the office of Davey Johnson.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll see when the game ends, if you look for Keith Hernandez, don't bother. You won't find him. I got to ask you, Calvin, though, when as an athlete, you try, obviously, just stay in the moment, don't think big picture. What are your thoughts there, knowing you're only 1 out away from winning the World Series?
I'm thinking the game's over, and instead of thinking that who's up next and what do I got to do to get him out, because I'm feeling pretty good about it, and then it just kind of, I make a bad pitch to Kevin, I fall behind Gary and make a bad pitch to Kevin, because that's already been said too, that I played with Kevin in the minor leagues. And
hold on, let's catch up with that in a minute. 2 outs, nobody on, and as Calvin said, Gary Carter, for the moment, is the Mets' last hope, and their dugout doesn't look like it has much hope.
And I fall behind Gary 2-0, and just I figure I can just throw it in there and hopefully he gets himself out, and he didn't.
Okay, so here comes Mitchell, with whom you had played in the minor leagues, and he feels like he knows what's coming.
He feels like he knows what's coming because I'm going to throw it to him, because I watched him for 2 years and could not hit a slider. And I told him, I'm going to get you out with a slider. And he hits a rocket to center field. It's a hanging slider right there. He's waiting on it.
So is your heart thumping a little bit now?
Yeah, I'm a little racy right now.
We have to feel good.
I still feel good.
Yeah,
this is 0-2 right here, and this is one of those where I'm trying to throw the ball up. I'm trying to throw a high fastball, and I get it in, but not in enough.
He just kind of fists it, not hit well.
Yeah.
Loops it in over Barrett, and now they're within 1. Here comes Carter. And it's 5-4.
It's too good of an 0-2 pitch to throw right there. And it catches way too much of the plate.
So the Mets were down to their last strike, and Knight fought it off. The tying run is now at second base. The potential winning run is at first, and McNamara surveys the situation, and he's going to decide that you've had enough, and he's going to call for the guy you had replaced not that long ago as the closer, Bob Stanley.
Well, he brought Bob in because I think he faced Mookie in game 4 or 5 before, and I think he got a ground ball out or something like that, and that was a good. I think Mac thought that was a good matchup for Steamer to come in.
Calvin, when you see the picture walking off the mound there, what emotions does that bring back? Obviously disappointment, but what do you feel, going back 25 years?
I'm disappointed in the results of what happened in this game and the results of what happened in the series. But I've had a lot of people ask me, would you change it? And I said, my thought is I wouldn't change a thing. Because what happens here has made me the person that I am. And I don't think I would, I know I wouldn't change the person that I am right now if it could change the results of this. Because I like who I am right now.
St. Michael's Crusaders, you're the baseball coach at that school in Austin, Texas, and have been for a long time. And you told us you don't think many of your young players are really that familiar with your career. If they see this show, it's going to be an eye-opener for them.
It'll be an eye-opener, but, some of the things that I've said will point out to the things that I'm trying to teach them about, like a 0-2 pitch and why you don't do it, because a bad 0-2 pitch cost us the World Series. That's some of the things I preach. I mean, I learned a lot from what happened here, and like I said, I wouldn't change it because of the person that it's made me.
I admit 2 runs down, two strikes and 2 outs is, but it ain't over yet.
Calvin Giraldi couldn't do it, and it's up to Bob Stanley, and it's up to Mookie Wilson.
So now Bob Stanley comes in, Mookie, and as he's taking his warm-ups, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I wish Calvin had stayed in the ball game. You know. Well, no, for just like I think Kevin said it earlier that he was somewhat familiar with us, and he had great success. And we were familiar with him because he was with us a while. Even though he had pretty much done pretty well against us, we still felt comfortable, you know, hitting off him. I wasn't as familiar with Stanley. You know, I'm not familiar, and I've never been one for taking pictures, just, you know, looking at a guy, oh, that just wasn't my game, you know. So I was a little disappointed I didn't get a chance to hit off Kelvin, you know, and I thought he probably would stay in because he had been their closer and had done a phenomenal job. So when Stanley was coming in, I was a little concerned because now I just have to back up and just regroup.
There are two pitches in this at-bat that are pretty much set in everybody's memory. But what people may not recall is what a long and battling at-bat it was. Foul ball after foul ball. And in fact, as we pick it up now, it's the 8th pitch of the at-bat, Stanley against Wilson.
But the first thing we have to understand is that the magnitude of this ball game. We had 2 or 3 guys just went out there with 2 strikes and put the ball in play. I was not going to let the ball get by.
But Rich Gedman did.
Yes.
And here comes Mitchell to tie it as Knight goes to second. Now, 25 years later, there are still people who say, though it was scored a wild pitch, that Geddy could have stopped it. What do you think, Calvin?
I'm glad he asked.
Wow.
I'll ask you next.
Well, the thing about that is it looked like Geddy set up to the outside and the ball comes inside. And if you're hoping that it's going outside, and he throws it in this far, and it looked like it kind of cut in, which his ball usually didn't cut in, but it looked like it moved that away. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to get a hold of.
Now you can no longer make the last out of the game. Now you're looking to win it, not just survive.
Well, that was the beauty of the whole thing. I was up there. We were down a run. I'm still up there, and now the score is tied. It's only one way I can go, and that's up. I can't lose the ball game, and it really relaxed me a lot. It allowed me, you know, a little more freedom to be a little looser at swinging at some pitches. And I probably, if I'm a little tighter, I probably miss most of those pitches.
By the way, we saw Kevin Mitchell get that hit and score that tying run there. Legend has it that he had been back in the clubhouse.
Legend has it.
Truth?
Yeah, you get put on the hot seat now.
He was back in the clubhouse taking his uniform off, figuring World Series is over.
Well, if you look at the attitude of that dugout, you know, people can talk about how confident we were, but I think pitcher says it all. That dugout was done. I mean, we didn't think there was any way that we were going to, particularly after the 2 outs. David was sitting there looking, you know, he was lost. I'm sitting 2 people down from him, and I had both hands on the bench trying to say, well, what have we just done? And, you know, yeah, the hits kind of picked us up again, but we were pretty much out of it.
Well, now the Mets are very much in it. The game is tied. Ray Knight is at second base. Mookie's still at the plate against Bob Stanley. And not incidentally, Bill Buckner is at first base. In every postseason victory the Red Sox had to that point against the Angels when they won in 7 games, and in their previous 3 victories in this World Series against the Mets, every one of them, Dave Stapleton had ended the game as a defensive replacement on the field in place of Bill Buckner. But not on this night, not in the bottom of the 10th of Game 6 of the World Series. We asked John McNamara about his decision to leave Billy Buck in the game.
The case is that Buckner was the best first baseman I had. And Dave Stapleton has taken enough shots at me since that he didn't get in that ball game. But Dave Stapleton's nickname was Shaky. And you know what that implies. And no, I didn't want him playing first base to end that game. And it was not any sentimental thing that I had for Billy Buck to leave him out there. He was the best first baseman I had.
I'm curious to your reactions there as you hear this. I mean, as you mentioned, Stapleton is on the field for each Red Sox victory throughout this postseason. He played 39 games during the season. 23 of those he came in as a defensive first baseman in the 8th or 9th innings. There seems to be a pattern that doesn't hold true for Game 6. When you hear John McNamara's explanation, what do you think?
Man, why am I getting these questions? What do I think? I think that he made a heck of a play in Game 1 to save that victory. And I'll be honest, I'd never heard Dave Stapleton called shaky. So that's a news flash for me. So I like Stape. I thought he was a heck of a player, and he added to our team. He came ready to play every day. And, you know, he didn't get a lot of opportunities that year, but, you know, he did what he was asked to do. So, you know, I never heard that before, and I hate getting in the middle of these things. We got too many of this out of this World Series.
You know what? Even if John says now that sentiment had nothing to do with it, you couldn't blame a guy for wanting to reward Bill Buckner. In fact, you might think well of him for wanting to reward Bill Buckner, because he wasn't just a good player, he was, in an athletic sense, a noble player. The way he had carried himself his whole career and throughout that postseason, hobbling around, and he wanted him to be on the field, maybe, to really feel it when it finally happened.
I mean, that's noble, but that's not what you do in a World Series, for me. I mean, you make the decisions you've been making all year long, and you go with what's going to win for the team. And we love Buck, and like I said earlier, we don't go to the World Series without him. And you know what he did, it was, you know, our respect for him is immense. But those are the decisions I think you don't make to win a World Championship for a team. And but if that's a decision, he felt that way, and you know, then go with it. But you know, I'd never heard Stape called shaky before, and you know, that's news to me.
All right, Bill Buckner was here along with Mookie Wilson a few months ago as part of our 20 Greatest Games countdown, and they watched as we replayed that fateful moment. Let's take a look.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
That did happen, huh?
It did.
Mookie, would you have beaten him to the bag? If he stops it, obviously Knight has to stop at third, but would you have beaten him to the bag?
I thought my chances were pretty good. I thought that I could beat the pitcher there, so I thought it would be a foot race between me and Billy Buck.
Stanley was a little slow off the mound, so it was a question of whether he could have gotten there in time, and certainly hobbled as he was and as fast as you were, running from the left side of the box. Questionable whether Billy could have beaten you to the bag had he fielded it.
Yeah, I mean, that's another topic that we talked about, and I've looked at that play hundreds of times trying to figure out, because I tried to answer it, you know, definitively, and there's no way you can really tell whether I would beat him to the bag or not. No way.
Calvin, obviously you started this inning. Where are you watching at this point, and describe what you saw?
I'm in the dugout, and I don't really remember what happened, because I think my head was down the entire time, hoping that that Bobby would get us out of it. And so I don't think I saw any of it until probably that night on replay.
Bruce?
I was in the dugout. I mean, I was, you know, we were all kind of a little bit in shock. It's like all of a sudden, you know, we're 1 out away, 1 strike away, and feeling pretty good. And the next thing you know, I mean, literally, it seems like in a flash, you know. But, you know, when we went in the dugout after the clubhouse after that, I mean, you have to remember, we knew how the Angels felt now. That was kind of our mantra, you know. We kind of stole one from them in Game 5, you know, where they were a strike away. And, you know, so that was, you know, wasn't the end of the world for us. We lost the game and a chance to win the World Series, but we still had another game, so.
Well, here's what Bill Buckner and John McNamara told us about what happened on that play.
My last thought catching ground balls, watch the ball into your glove. But for, you know, for years I couldn't figure out how I missed that ball. And if you go back and you look, you know, and I was being so careful, I planted my left foot to stop, you know, to make sure I watched the ball, and that glove, my momentum when I planted my foot, that glove kind of closed up. And the ball, you know, normally if you look up and don't watch the ball, you're going to, you know, the ball goes underneath. You're going to look up. Well, this ball went over here to the right side, you know, pocket high, but to the right side. That glove, when I planted my hand, that glove just closed automatically. The ball went right by there. Should have threw that glove away the year before.
I would take the blame, the full blame, if the ball was hit to Buck's left, or his right, and he couldn't get to the ball because of his ankles. But he got to the ball, got in front of it, just went through his legs.
What was the clubhouse like immediately after? I mean, you expressed the idea, which was perfectly rational, that you still got another shot, another ball game to win. The series is only tied. But in the immediate aftermath, had to be stunned, right?
Yeah, we're stunned, and it was pretty quiet. There were a couple of gloves thrown in their locker. I mean, it was a fairly typical reaction, and rightfully so. But once we had a chance to think about it, you know, we kind of caught our breath. You know, we realized we still had life, so it wasn't over. It wasn't the death.
How about for you, Calvin? Because we hear a lot about closers needing very short memories. That one actually had to be extremely hard.
It was hard, but it's something that you have to do. I mean, this was my first year closing, but I'd learned, at least I thought I'd learned to be able to put it behind me. I mean, I'd blown a couple games earlier in the year and learned from it. Did the same thing in Game 4 of the ALCS. Came back in Game 5 and pitched well. So it's move on to the next game and see what happens.
How crazy was your clubhouse, Mookie?
It was crazy. I don't know if we're crazy because we had just come from behind victory, or we're just kind of still in amazement as to what happened, you know, and how it happened. I think it's a little bit of both, but we're feeling good. I mean, we knew that we had our magic back, you know, and that team, it was really, we stole one. We stole one, and we just, guys went battled, not giving up, and putting the ball in play. Hey, it was a great feeling in that clubhouse. It really was.
Were you aware, Bruce, that you had been voted when it looked like the series was going to end with the Red Sox winning it? In that 10th inning, you had already been voted the World Series MVP.
I found out afterwards. Somebody mentioned it to me, people at home or whatever. So I guess I'm the shortest MVP in history. So 5 seconds or something, 15 maybe.
And almost subliminally, for less than a second, somebody pushed the wrong button, and it said on the scoreboard, sometime in that bottom of the 10th inning when it looked like the Mets were cooked, congratulations, world champion Red Sox.
I saw that too. I'm looking up and seeing that. I like the way it looked, to be honest with you. It looked good to me.
We alluded to this earlier, but let's let him tell the tale. Where was Keith Hernandez after his at-bat in the bottom of the 10th when he made the second out?
I went up into the clubhouse, I remember, and I just ran up the tunnel. And my reasoning was I didn't want to see Boston celebrating on our field. And then all of a sudden we're watching on TV and all this stuff just starts happening. I didn't get out of that chair. Baseball players are very superstitious. I did not go back on the field for the celebration at home plate because I did not feel that I deserved to be there, and I waited for the team to come up the tunnel and greeted them there. That was an incredible comeback, and I was not going to have to look at Boston jumping up and down on our infield.
The momentum shifted in winning in Game 6. It was over. If we could do what we did coming from one strike away from and 2 runs down, 2 outs, and coming back and winning the ball game, no circumstance could be more dire than that coming in Game 7.
Well, with reverberations from Game 6 being felt all around New York still, and for that matter, all around New England, maybe the Red Sox catch a break because it rains the next night, and Game 7 is postponed from Sunday to Monday night. And at some point, John McNamara comes to you and says, you got enough rest. You pitch Game 5, but you can go on 3 days rest and pitch Game 7, right?
Sunday night is after the game had been called sometime before we went to bed. I was actually talking to my wife about this the other night, and we went out to dinner, and we kind of had a suspicion that it was a possibility, so we went out to dinner and we didn't walk around the city. We just went right back just in case the phone call did come, then I could get my rest and get into my routine. And Mac called and told me, and so I started my pregame routine, getting ready to go.
How well did you sleep?
I slept all right, actually. I mean, I was, once I got, Game 1 was the one for me. Once I got on the mound, everything clicked for me. It just all of a sudden seemed normal. Once the media cleared off the field and all the energy of that, it just became pretty comfortable for me. So I wasn't overwhelmed. I mean, it's what you grow up as, throwing the ball against the wall as a kid. It's Game 7. You're always pitching, and here's my chance. So I was having some fun.
Bruce had pitched brilliantly in the World Series to that point. But you figure he still has Oil Can Boyd to come out of the bullpen. But as it turns out, no, because Oil Can did not take the news especially well and drowned his sorrows in a way that rendered him incapable of performing in Game 7. Here's McNamara on that.
Story goes, he had some alcohol before Game 7, and you didn't think he was in no position to go out there and take the ball.
Well, you said it, I didn't, but that's the exact reason.
Well, he more or less confirms it, and here's what Bill Fisher, the pitching coach, said. We don't have him on tape, but here is his quote. I came to the park, and Al Nipper, one of the Red Sox pitchers, he had started Game 4, came up to me and said, you should check on your long man, that would be Boyd. He was boxed up, under the weather from drinking, so we locked him in a room. Recall any of this? Cal, Bruce?
Cal?
I don't remember a thing.
I don't either. I was ready to pitch. I mean, I couldn't worry about that stuff. That's, that was a distraction for me. I was doing my thing. I was getting ready to do what I had to do. So I don't remember.
But if strategically, Tom, if Roger Clemens was available for an inning or two, as he to this day says that he was, and if Oil Can Boyd had been prepared to pitch, then Game 7 might have played out differently.
And there's no question. I mean, you're talking about two valuable arms. We think of Game 7 as an all-hands-on-deck game. Yeah. Starting pitcher, relief pitcher, doesn't matter. Everybody's in the bullpen, spikes on. And we've heard Calvin say that Roger was there, ready to go, not called upon for whatever reason. And now we hear about Oil Can Boyd, not called upon for a reason that John McNamara has spelled out.
Ron Darling is your opponent. He pitched games 1, 4, and 7 for the Mets. And let's pick up the game. Game 7 now. In the second inning, Dwight Evans is leading off for the Red Sox, facing Darling.
High drive into deep left center field. That one might go all the way. It is gone. Home run, Dwight Evans. And that's a drive into right center field. Strawberry going back to the wall. At the wall, leaps in the air. One-hands it. No, he missed it. The right hand of Dale Ford started up and then circled to indicate home run. And Strawberry coming with an inch. It's gone, and the Sox lead 2-0.
So back-to-back homers make it 2-0. It wasn't that Darling was doing that badly, but you can't afford to wait in Game 7. And pretty soon thereafter, Davey went to the bullpen for Sid Fernandez. Unheralded performance. A lot like Mike Messina in Game 7 in 2003 when, ironically enough, Roger Clemens, then a Yankee, didn't quite have it, and Messina held the fort until the Yankees could come back against Pedro Martinez. Sid Fernandez came in and kept it close for you guys.
Well, Sid is a very underrated pitcher. I think he had been all year.
Big left-hander.
A big left-hander, and I think that gave Boston a little bit different look from what we had been bringing in normally during that situation. So I thought it's a good move by Davey. At the time, maybe a gutsy move, maybe going for a more, a polished person. Because Sid, his control was sometimes could be on rocky ground. But when he was throwing strikes, he was tough, and he was tough that night.
Early in that ball game, if you go back, we had runners on base with our big hitters up there, and we could not get a base hit to lengthen our lead.
Back to Game 7 of the World Series, bottom of the 6th now, 1 out, and up steps Lee Mazzilli, pinch hitting for Sid Fernandez, and facing Bruce Hurst.
Hurst, by the way, is on a roll now. He has retired 11 in a row.
Change-up.
Yeah.
Another big pinch hit for him. He was a key guy in this World Series.
He got a lot of big hits.
But that's what he does.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He's done it for us all year.
And here you are, Mookie.
Yeah. This is what you don't know what this guy's going to do.
You couldn't hit a ground ball double play for me, could you? I think another changeup.
And we pulled both of them.
Yeah.
You know what was funny about this whole situation? Even though we were down, we were still feeling pretty good. You know, it's not like we were down in the first 2 ball games where we were a little shaken, but we weren't shaken by this.
Right.
Well, now you lose Tuffle. There's McNamara conferring with Fisher, the pitching coach. The bases are loaded, and here's Hernandez.
This is the one pitch that I want back in the World Series. It was the one time where I kind of got between with Richie on what I wanted to do. It ended up being a 3-run pitch, if I remember right, and went to a fastball, got it up, and he hit it for a double. And I kind of had in my mind that I wanted to throw something soft at him because I knew he's a really good fastball hitter.
Is there anything you recall about this conversation here, Bruce? Obviously, he wants you in to stay left on Hernandez with Crawford in the bullpen.
I think that's what the conversation was. You know, I think he was out there kind of giving me a blow, kind of, you know, pump me up a little bit, telling me everything's all right. And, you know, I'm just one pitch away from getting out of this. He likes the matchup. And, you know, just go out and make a pitch here. You know, see if I can get, you know, kind of right the ship here.
Keith Hernandez had a key hit in the 7th game of the '82 World Series for the Cardinals when they were down against the Brewers, also against a left-hander, and he does it again.
High fastball.
Looked like he hit it almost off his shoulder.
It was up, yeah, and you know, it was just a pitch I was in between, and I had a changeup on my mind. It's a, you know, yeah, up and right down the middle. Neither of them are conducive to.
Keith is one of the opposite, usually with the left-handers.
Yes, yeah.
He's a high ball hitter, where most left-handers are
low ball hitters, right?
He was very good ball up. Yeah. Very good with the ball up.
So that's the one pitch.
You score, Mazzilli scores ahead of you, Tuffle to third. Suddenly now it's 3-2, and here's Keith Hernandez with an explanation of that at bat.
The book on me was always inside. I knew that, and he threw me a big hook the first at bat, nasty one. I took it, and I just choked up an extra inch on the back because all was needed was a base hit. A sacrifice fly wasn't good enough.
All right, so that makes the score 3-2, and the next batter is Gary Carter.
Hit in the air to right field. Here comes Evans. It's gonna be caught. No, he didn't hold it. The run is in. However, Hernandez is tagged out by Spike Owen. Evans making a diving, smothering attempt, and we had to wait till Dale Ford indicated catch and then no catch. And that's why Hernandez is hollering, why didn't you call it?
The ball's, he can't tell where the ball is, so it's just one of those things that happens.
So your lead is gone. Red Sox get out of the inning, 3-3, but now it's a whole different situation.
Yeah, it's a whole new game. And, you know, I think I remember telling Mac, he asked me how I felt, and I felt like that the part of the order that was coming up, I felt like I could get out, and I felt like I could go on. But, you know, I was starting to tire. Seaver was on our team, and Seaver told me afterwards, you know, he said, you're starting to elevate the ball. It's a good choice. So, you know, the feeling you have to feel like you're going to get out. You don't want to come out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know, it was a decision that, you know, probably had to be made. I was starting to elevate.
Seaver was on the team, but not eligible to play in uniform in the dugout, but on the disabled list.
And should be known that for me personally, the World Series with Tom Seaver was made the experience phenomenal for me. It was like the University of Seaver every day. He had little one or two, you know, thoughts that he'd always ingrained in my mind between innings. He'd just make sure I stayed on point, didn't get too distracted, and it was really, really valuable for me. And, you know, between starts and watching other games, I'd sit by him and pick his brain and listen to little things, and you know, it made the experience even better for me personally.
Well, we saw Steve Crawford in the bullpen briefly earlier, but now with Bruce out of the game and the score is still tied after the Red Sox don't score in the top of the 7th to the bottom half, we've explained why Oil Can Boyd is not available. Roger Clemens is not going to be called upon for an inning or two here. Back to you, Calvin. 3-3 game. What are you thinking? It's only 48 hours since things kind of fell apart in Game 6. What are you thinking now?
Well, I'm thinking I'm feeling all right just because I've had the extra day with the 3 innings the night before, whatever it was. I'm feeling pretty good until this pitch right here. Got it high fastball, and not anywhere close to where Getty was setting up.
It looked like a little bit of a shake on the pitch selection right before that.
That's the shake-off sign.
Just an automatic shake-off.
I only had 2 pitches, so I wasn't going to throw a curveball, and Getty wasn't going to call it, so we know that wasn't happening.
It was A or B.
Yeah.
So Knight, who had scored the winning run in the crazy Game 6 2 nights before, homers as the leadoff man in the bottom of the 7th. That makes it 4-3. The Mets tack on 2 more, and they lead 6-3. But if the Red Sox were going to roll over and die, it wasn't going to happen just yet. We're going to go to the top half of the 8th inning, and you guys are down by 3, but not quite ready to quit.
No, there are a lot of outs left.
Top of the 8th, Evans at the plate after singles by Buckner and Rice. He drives one into the gap. Billy Buck scores.
Sort of.
Right? Rice scores, and it's 6-5. That chases McDowell, and here comes Orozco to face the left-handed hitting Gedman with Evans at second and nobody out in what is now a 1-run game, and a line drive that's caught by Backman. Evans dives back in, but the Red Sox are unable to move the man to third.
How about that play by Evans? So can you
Yeah,
get back?
get back.
Yeah.
It was a rocket. Here's our Mr. October.
Don Baylor's got a bat as Henderson strikes out. Henderson had been Mr. October, but that time Orozco got him. And here comes Baylor, who had started the rally in Game 5 of the ALCS in the top of the 9th against Mike Witt with a 2-run homer. Off-speed pitch bounced to short. Santana throws him out, and the tying run is left at second base, and it's a 6-5 game as the Mets come up in the bottom half of the 8th.
That's some big league pitching right there. You know, running on second, nobody out.
Yeah.
Getty hit the ball on the screws, but you know, after that, he made a couple good pitches. Just some good hitters.
Up next, the conclusion of the World Series as an unforgettable 1986 postseason finally has a champion. Welcome back to a postseason to remember, 1986. We head now to the bottom of the 8th of Game 7 of the World Series at Shea Stadium. The Red Sox have cut the deficit to 1. It's now 6-5 Mets. Al Nipper comes out of the bullpen in relief of Calvin Schiraldi, and the first man he faces is Darryl Strawberry. Again, Vin Scully.
High drive into deep right field. Evans back at the wall. Gone.
Now that ball was hit a mile high, but didn't take. Darryl took a lot longer to get around the bases. That ball took to get out. This is a 30-second home run shot right here, Mookie, and I think we know why. It really wasn't directed at the Red Sox.
Yeah.
I think that one was for Davey.
I think Straw has worse emotions on his sleeves a lot of times, and you know, when you play with guys during the course of a season, you get to understand, you know, their personalities and why they do certain things. But you know, that was the Straw that's kind of saying, see, this is why you leave me in the ball game.
And the Red Sox took it as an insult to them.
Yeah.
And as it happened, the next spring training, Nipper faced Strawberry in Florida and immediately hit him with a pitch.
Yeah.
And it ignited a bench-clearing incident. But really, it was all about Straw being ticked off at Davey.
Yeah, but you know, you can't blame Nipper because he doesn't know what was going on. And but it made for interesting spring training. Yeah.
So that made it 7-5. Mets tacked on another run, made it 8-5 to the top of the 9th. Ed Romero fouls out, Wade Boggs grounds out, and Marty Barrett is up against Jesse Orozco. The Red Sox down to their last out. You could feel Shea Stadium shake.
Yes,
you could literally feel it shake.
Yes. I tell you the one thing that we did notice, and I'll make a note of this, is whenever I see this, I look in you guys' dugout, and you guys had the same look that we had in Game 6. And
except for we didn't have a Game 7 to go to after that. That was it for us. The book closed right there.
Well, you talk about the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat in the immortal words of Jim McKay. You felt all of that October.
It was a postseason to remember. It was unbelievable. I mean, we rode every possible emotion through the playoffs and through the World Series, and you can't come any closer to winning a World Series and lose than we did. You just can't. And man, it was tough. It was the thing that got me through the whole thing was the next spring. That's where we just never let it die. We were still picking the scabs from what happened in Game 6 in the next spring, and it made for a real long year in '87.
I got to ask you, there is a team that I think knows how you feel.
Yes.
2011 Texas Rangers.
Yes.
One strike away.
Yeah.
Your club threw 16 pitches with the chance to get the out to win the World Series, 4 of them with 1 strike to go. Texas threw 9 pitches in that situation, needing 1 out, 3 of them 1 strike away. The only 2 teams to get that close without closing it. When watching the Texas Rangers, what did you guys think? What did you feel?
Been there, done that. I mean, I felt for Ogando that when he hit, I can't remember who he hit with the curveball, and I'm just going, I said, I told my wife, I said, been there, done that, and all he did was overthrow it, try to make a perfect pitch, and I just felt for him.
Isn't that the beauty about baseball? I mean, no offense to football, but it would be great if we could just kneel down for the last 3 outs. Didn't have to throw the ball. We'd be wearing the ring, and you guys would be in second place. But you have to throw it. I mean, they make you get all 3 outs, 27 outs. They all have to be recorded, and it's the beauty of the game.
You know, I think baseball, that what it gives you. I mean, the way you guys made it through the playoffs and then finally to the World Series, and the way we had to fight and scrape against Houston, and you know. It was just, I thought it was a phenomenal year for baseball. You know, I know we had a great year, but for baseball in general, for any baseball fan, forget whether you're a Boston fan or Met fans or whatever, that was the greatest year for baseball, I think, I've been involved with.
You know, the thing that I found, Tom, no matter who wound up winning or losing, when we brought the participants together for any of the 20 greatest games, or now for a look at both LCSs and the World Series in '86, there's a real respect and kinship among the opponents, not just the teammates.
There's no question. I think intense competitors on both sides, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you guys understood what you were a part of. That here we are 25 years later, and we're talking about the competition, and you guys were lucky enough, even though I know you don't like the results on the Red Sox side, but lucky enough to take part in this postseason.
Yeah, it was a privilege.
Yeah, and we both teams were fighting their own demons. You know, you guys fighting the curse.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And the Mets hadn't been top of the charts for a long time, so we each had our demons that we were fighting. And I think that part of what made that series so good, and I think that's part of what made that the error by Billy, you know, so bad. I mean, it was an error. I mean, how many errors have been made? I mean, you know, it was a big time on a big stage for 2 teams that were struggling to regain an identity as Major League franchises.
Mookie, thanks. Bruce, as always, thanks. Double appearances, encore appearances for you guys. Calvin, a lot of us in the baseball world hadn't seen you in a while, so thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks to all 3 of you. Tom, sit tight. There's more to come. Let's hear from Keith Hernandez. He wasn't in the clubhouse during the celebration this time as he was in Game 6. He was right in the middle of it after Game 7.
So there's Jesse with the big final out, and then it's over. And I remember I got in the bottom of that pile. It was right, Kevin Mitchell's face was right in my face, and we were pinned at the bottom of the pile. I couldn't move. And we were just right here looking at each other and just laughing because we couldn't move.
I still carry it with me, no question about it. And I took off my World Series American League Championship ring that year because every time I was driving the car, that ring would show up in front of me. And then the memories start streaming, and I thought, why aggravate yourself?
25 years later, what I remember about the '86 World Series is that wow pitch. I mean, that thing sticks in my mind because I knew then we were going to win the whole thing.
Tom, a lot of memorable games and plays and reminiscences from some of the key figures. What strikes you?
Well, it's amazing that these games, they don't end, not with the last out. 25 years later, we talk about it as if it were yesterday. And what stood out was John McNamara talking very decisively about his version of Roger Clemens' exit, very different from Roger's version. And Calvin Schiraldi, the comfort level to move on from that game was, to me, very striking, very impressive.
And the fact that even the Red Sox who wound up losing it, at least those who are here in the studio, they have a certain pride about having been part of it, as painful as it was, a pride about having been part of such a memorable LCS, which they won over the Angels, and World Series, which they lost to the Mets.
3 weeks of incredible baseball. It wasn't just one game, 1 week, 3 weeks, amazing.
That's why it was a postseason to remember, 1986.
Well, that pretty much states it right there, doesn't it?
And the Mets are down to their last out. It's so quiet in New York, you can almost hear Boston.
It was on the big screen. And he came out, and I remember saying, look, that son of a gun went up there and shaved. Because he always, remember, Clemens always pitched with a 4-day growth. I said, this guy thinks he's got it, but they got it.
Calvin Schiraldi trying to finish off the Mets and the 1986 baseball season. Lined into left field, base hit for Carter, and the Mets are still alive. Curveball, and that's going to be hit to center, base hit. And that's going to be hit into center field. Here comes Carter to score, and the tying run is at third.
That's when I turned to Darryl and said, I am not leaving this chair. I said, this chair's got 3 hits in it. I'm going nowhere.
They told me that they had the clubhouse set up and had to tear down the paper because of the champagne.
And it's going to go to the backstop. Here comes Mitchell to score the tying run. Take it out, get some help. Take it out.
So the winning run is at second base with 2 out, 3-2 to Mookie Wilson.
He was not going to put me out there if it was going to hurt the ball club.
Little roller up along first.
Now, would Dave Stapleton had caught the ball? Yeah, so would you. Bob, you'd have caught that ball.
Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner.
People ask me how I feel now about it. I feel very blessed. Yeah, I've played 21 years in the major leagues, got to play in 2 World Series.
Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
Would I have liked it, things had changed differently in the 7th game? Obviously, or the 6th game. But it didn't. Would I do it again with the same results? Heck yeah.
Mookie, have you ever seen anything like this?
Dave, this whole postseason play has been unbelievable. But you got to give credit to the guys. We don't give up, and the nice perfect is out. We could have used to fold it, but everybody battled back. It was nothing to do my part, and I did the best I could.
Hey, Boston, hold your head up. You gave it your best shot and came up a buck short.
Yeah, I still think about it. I don't second guess myself or dread what happened. And, I guess it's very important that, that was a tremendous playoff and a tremendous World Series. And, what the hell, I'll be part of history.
He struck him out. Struck him out. The Mets have won the World Series. The dream has come true. The Mets have won the World Series.
Now the crowd salutes them as they can say, truly, we are #1.